Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Welcome back, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
This is what has become sort of the second installment in a mini series on the podcast. I don't know.
I feel like that's so like it's like we're announcing like a television mini series. Yeah, it
like
kind of is though.
Little bit.
Yeah.
So this is a second part based on a blog article that I wrote on the blog on our website. You go to howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. You can see the article on the website about the new normal. And I posed several questions about how are we going to handle these things, or how are we going to do these things if this is in fact what we feel like it is for now anyway.
It's
new normal,
temporary normal. Yeah,
I don't know. I feel like this is just going to be this way for a while.
For a little while. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know.
So if we are thinking, what are the things that we have to really consider for this new normal? One of them is families. How do we still have families be involved, not just sort of invited to conferences online, but really involved in their child's childhood experience, and in a way that allows us to get glimpses of them and with, maybe even with their children. How do we do that in an era when a lot of places are still not having families come in, or at least not to the level they used to, which is understandable, really, depending on what's going on and where you are and what your regulations are related to the COVID virus. And, there are places where they've realized there are certain things about families and not coming in as much that actually have been benefiting the children. It was a very interesting conversation I had with a teacher recently. And she said, she was talking about the fact that there's a positive change in separation anxiety because the parents are not bringing their kids in.
Okay.
The building, I mean.
I agree with that because when I used to work in childcare centers and the parents were in and out all the time, they like that building was also their building on top of it, also being their children's building. Okay.
Yeah.
It was totally different than when I moved to the public school and those kids got dropped off at the door or took a bus, and the parents were only in during certain times. It made it so like in that public school environment, that place was like fully the kids. It was their place, their home, their classroom, and the parents were just like visitors there once in a while. Whereas like in the childcare center, it was like all of their center, all of their place. Like it had a different feel. It does have a different feel.
This teacher pointed out, and some of you may have experienced this who are listening, she said the fact that when they come in, there are no families around and they're not wishing their family was still here, or whatever happens with separation anxiety happens before they come in. She said, here's what I know. This is what she basically said to me. Here's what I know. I can start the day sooner.
Yes.
It's like I have a much faster start to my day. And actually the children are all pretty acclimated but when they enter the room, which I think, for most children, if they're able to do that sort of is a kind of benefit. That said, families still have a right to certainly to know their children's caregivers, to know the teachers, to see the environment, to feel like they can just come in and ask a question. So a benefit of having them come in, I think, when I was teaching and directing a program, was when something was on their mind, they would just come in and kind of say, hey, I have a question. And they don't have the ability to do that now in many places. So I've been thinking about how do we still involve families in some sort of meaningful way. And as I said, I've been talking to teachers about this. There was one thing that I said that a teacher said, boy, I would love to do that if we weren't so short-staffed. So then that whole short-staffed dilemma comes back up, right?
Yeah.
So, what I said was that for my students, what I do is I have sort of like Zoom open office hours as if we were in person in an office. Instead, what I do is I just sit on Zoom. I pick an hour a month or an hour every couple weeks, and I just sort of sit on Zoom, and they know that if they have any questions or concerns or just want to say hi or just want to talk to me about anything, they can jump into that Zoom. And I have yet to do one where no one has come. They always come. Sometimes it's just this. Yes. Sometimes it's just the simplest thing. Not everyone takes advantage of it. Not everyone has a question or comment, but those who do, like, they'll just come in and say one tiny little thing, and then they're off and running, like they're done. So what I tell people is that they're going to be admitted into the Zoom in the order in which they logged in. They sit in the Zoom waiting room until I'm done with the person before them, and then they come in.
Privacy.
Right. So there's privacy. And it's so I had a teacher say to me, boy, I would really like to do that, to be able to say during this hour to this hour during the school day, I'll be just, doing some prep work or whatever and sitting with Zoom open if you would like to join me. She said, but we're not staffed enough to do that. And I'm sure there are places that don't have the technology to do that. So
correct.
Right. So the question then is, what do we do if we can't say, come talk to me like that? How can we empower families to feel a part of their child's early education?
Without the Zoom technology? I mean, I guess you have to go a little bit old school, right? You could do old school email, right?
It's not the same. It's not the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same, but
I mean, they do go back and forth in apps and email. I mean, there is that communication.
A back and forth. There's a communication.
There's a communication, but it's just not the same.
It's not the same.
When I think back about my time in programs in schools, I work with another program where they've had wonderful family education programs, and then they stopped because of COVID-19. And there are other places that kept them going. And I know, because I have facilitated them on Zoom, I think you can keep doing family education. I also think you can keep encouraging families to work together and meet each other using technology if you can't bring them together in your program.
Well, what about, I don't know about the regulations in other states, but I know here, outdoors was still pretty safe to go meet people, right? So like,
you could in the good weather.
What if, now that the weather's getting a little nicer, you might be able to have something outdoors where you could meet people, like, even if it's like, hey, if you want to meet just quickly, I'll be sitting at this picnic table over here, kind of thing, or have like a small group
gathering,
social, kind of thing outside, and it be safe. So maybe that's a way to do it without using the technology, but also being able to meet these people in a safe way, and they would feel comfortable doing that too, hopefully, so.
And we should be a resource for families. So we should not only be providing education, but also resources, community resources, that sort of thing can still be sent home, to say, here's a resource in case you need it. Are you struggling with this? Are you looking for information about this? Are you whatever it is? And consistently send those resources home. I really just wish that teachers had more of an opportunity now to see children with their families, because it gives you so much information about how the families interact, right? Their culture, their way of communicating. It gives you so much. And that's why I think if you're able in some way, whether, like Alison is saying, whether outdoors or on technology, to start to safely gather people now. I don't know. I know a number of programs who've been doing parent-teacher conferences technologically on Zoom or on Meets or Teams or whatever they've got.
Whatever they use,
right. And they've been doing it that way, and they really want to keep doing it that way, because both parents are able to attend, or the grandparent and the parent is able to attend. Or
I feel like the use of technology in that way has opened up parent-teacher conferences in like a really good way. Parents who couldn't attend before, because at least by us, parents work in the city and they couldn't drive back or travel back quick enough. Now they can just log on. You could have like one logged on from the city, one logged on from home, and you're meeting with both of these parents, and they're in two different locations. All three of you are in different locations, so it has opened up parent teacher conferences in a lovely way, I think. I don't think that should ever go away. I think that should be an option for everyone.
Yeah, I
you
think they
know?
should be given the option when
Yes.
we're safe enough. I think you should say to the families, would you like to come in person or would you like to meet on
Yes.
technology? And I think we
Yes.
need to tell them, here are the benefits of in person, here are the benefits of
Benefits of
technology.
technology.
You
Yeah.
decide, because they may not
Yeah.
think of all those angles because they haven't
Right.
experienced. You
Yeah.
know, I might not think of, oh, you know what? Well, my husband's at work, he could log in too.
Yes.
So, you know, or while my wife is, you know, at work and I'm at work,
Yeah,
we could both log in. Like I would have not, I don't know.
But it's amazing what it does to open up that, because I had somebody log in while she was on her lunch and she was walking around outside.
That's
and
fine.
her husband was with me.
Okay? Yeah, that's
so,
fine.
And but we had her on the screen, and like, so it makes it so like she normally wouldn't have been able to come, only her husband would have,
right.
But now she can.
Right.
Because of technology, which is nice.
I really love that whoever the primary caregivers are for the child, whether it's a babysitter, a nanny, a grandparent, or some other relative, a neighbor who watches them, whoever you feel like should hear from or talk with the teacher can jump into that meeting. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
And like I say, the schedules, you know, I talk about, oh, and then my husband could have joined because I tended to be the one to go.
Right.
Until they were a little older and it was more in the evening. Then we both went when we were available. Sometimes my husband went without me if I had a work obligation. But even if I had a work obligation in today's world, I might have been able to log in for a few minutes. So I think that that's a really, really good thing.
I think that's nice, because I think when I was a kid, it was only ever my mom, just because of the way my mom stayed home and my dad worked. So the teacher never knew who really my dad was. They never met him, you know? So like now, like, I feel like we can meet both through technology, and that's kind of nice. It gives you a better glimpse of the life of the child, you know?
That is nice.
Yeah.
But I do feel that there's an increasing disconnect. You know, during the midst of the lockdowns, there were teachers who were doing virtual learning who told me that they liked having families on the Zoom with them, that they feel like they got a glimpse of their homes. They knew them better. They said we have a stronger relationship now with the families. And then we went back to the in-person learning. And now teachers are telling me, I don't know these families at all. They don't know me. So that didn't maintain in any way, right? No, I don't know them at all. They don't know me. When we used to be able to see them in the building, at least we knew each other. I had a teacher say to me, we're going to do conferences. You know, it's the first time these families are going to see my face. That's not good. It's not good. People need to know who's with their very young child. And I think we have to figure out opportunities where not only can we gather people, you know, just to be able to report progress, but also so that we can get to know each other a little. We are the two most important worlds for this child, home and school, and to not know each other at all, and to have people saying to me, you know, they've never seen me, is not great. It's not great practice. It's not okay.
It's not okay. Yeah.
So,
okay.
Right. So I think we have to forge a new path for family involvement. And our ethics from the National Association for the Education of Young Children's Ethical Code of Conduct and Statement of Commitment talks about how important it is that we maintain our commitment to families. And the latest statement from NACI about developmentally appropriate practice has a whole added section about the importance of understanding culture and family context. Well, how am I supposed to understand family context if the family never sees me and I never see the family? And all we're doing is typing email to each other, maybe, or app messages to each other. But that it still creates like this disconnect, even though you may be sending an app message every day.
Even though you're really, really trying with the messaging.
Right. And you're sending app messages every single day, maybe.
Yeah.
There's a giant disconnect. I recently had an experience. So I teach college online, right? And the students, like, I'll post videos of myself with information for them and stuff, but not every student takes advantage of or has the opportunity to talk to me like this. And I had a student contact me because she's in a different class where they have to interview a professional. And she saw my name on the list of people willing to be interviewed from the university. And she contacted me and she said, I was so excited to see your name on the list because I know you, and would you be willing to let me interview you? And I said, sure. And we connected on Zoom. She was so excited to have a real conversation.
Yeah.
And I feel like we have to figure out how to have these conversations with the families. We have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't that just so telling? What this student said is like, she just wants to have interaction with another human being, even if it's through Zoom, I guess. And like,
or to get to know me in that way, not just a pre-recorded video, but because we were sitting and chatting.
Because we're lacking all of that.
Yeah.
The social aspect, I think, is really, you want to talk about the learning loss. That's what's lost, is the social aspect of everything. It's people are missing interacting with other human beings, and not even on the screen. It would be nice to see Cindy in person. Yes. You know, like I haven't seen her in person in what?
I've seen other people in person, Alison. We just haven't done it.
We just haven't done it lately. I know. But yes,
we've just been busy.
Yeah. I kind of get what that student was saying.
To just sit and that's why that idea, when I said to the teacher, I do these open hours for students who want to do that.
Yeah.
And it was just, she loved it, but it was so disheartened because there's no way they could fit it in with the short staff situation really and their schedule. And it's really hard, but maybe someday the staff will be beefed up in places and you will be able to think about, maybe we should have these open hours. If we're going to say, let's maintain the system that we put together for pickup and drop off.
Yeah.
Unless there's some sort of special situation that's working out for us for whatever reason. Maybe it's more efficient. Maybe the families like it better. It could be a situation where the families are like, I really like being able to drop off and not having to get out of my car. You come and get my child. It could be a lot of reasons. Also, there are places that bus all the time. I work with programs that have only busing.
They only bus. Yeah.
They have no one dropping the kids off like that. So maybe it affords them the opportunity to really think about, how can we involve families taking advantage of what we've learned about the use of technology?
Mm-hmm.
And like we said before, connecting families to each other so that they have a social group with children of the same age. Isn't that one of the reasons why we do things like bring our children to different activities? Part of it is meeting the other people who have children of the same age.
Yeah.
And we should be facilitating that in our settings, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope our preschool peeps will give a lot of thought to how can we have authentic connections with families, not just a message in an app, but an authentic connection, and connect them and still get a glimpse of who they are as a family. Don't you think that this idea of meeting with people on Zoom almost takes the place of home visits, which is something that Head Start has done for a long time, but not a lot of other early childhood programs?
Yeah, it probably has taken the place of home visits.
It could. I think it has the potential.
Yeah.
I think that there was resistance to home visits universally because it's not something we're used to doing as early educators. It can be uncomfortable for people. Safety, lots of reasons why people didn't want to institute home visits, even though we know that they can be beneficial. Well, maybe using technology can be your way of doing home visits. And then you get that glimpse that people got during lockdowns where they said, it's so interesting to have families on Zoom.
It really was very interesting. Well, it made you know them in a different dynamic than you did. I mean, you saw these parents usually only at like drop off and pick up, and all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, there she is, like cooking breakfast. Like, it was like kind of nice to be like, oh wow, because like how
there
like,
they are
families,
cleaning in the background.
Well, it makes you realize like they're human beings too, and then they also realize like, oh, she's a human being too. There's her dog barking in the background. Like, yep, this is life, and it kind of made you. It humanized everybody in a way, and that was so nice.
You're right. You're right. It was very human. It was very humanizing.
Yeah.
And there are aspects of it that I think we should not have shed when people came back in person.
Yeah.
So I hope that if you're listening to this, you will bring the idea to your workplace and say, maybe we need to be offering families more connections on technology again, on a platform that allows us to have
Yeah.
conversations with each other,
Yeah.
not just send information, not just give assignments.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and casually.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So there's our food for thought for this week. If you have other ideas for how to connect families to each other and to you, feel free to send them to us and let us know if we can share them, because we'd be happy to share them.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be great. I'm sure people
Right.
do have some really good ideas too that we're not thinking of. So,
And
maybe they're already doing them.
right.
Yeah.
And by the way, we just as a total and complete aside, Alison and I look at our statistics sometimes, and we noticed that we had an uptick in people from Ireland listening to us. So I want to say
Hi,
hello
peeps
if
from
you're still
Ireland.
there from Ireland. Hello, welcome aboard.
Yeah, we were super excited about that one.
We see from all over people are listening, but suddenly there was this big Ireland uptick. So thank you. And you know what?
Yes.
Maybe what we should do, Allison, is every so often we look in our statistics and
Oh,
call out
yeah.
places that
Call
are
out
coming to the
places.
top of the listener list in
That's a
our
good
country
idea.
and in others.
Yes, that's a good idea.
Thank you. I
A
just
little
had it
shout
right
out.
here on the
Yeah.
spot. I must
Good
be
thing I
very
agreed with
awake.
it. Yeah.
Very awake. Okay, preschool peeps, keep listening to see if where you are gets shouted out. And we will connect with you again soon.
All right. Bye, peeps.
Bye.